Have you ever finished an episode of your favorite show only to wake up a few years later and realize you're living in it? It's a phenomenon that turns writers into modern day prophets. From The Simpsons seemingly calling every major political shift to sci-fi shows dreaming up tech that we now can't live without. The line between fiction and reality is thinner than you think. Today we're counting down the top 10 times that TV shows appear to predict real-world events. We're looking at the eerie, the accurate, and the downright impossible. Get ready because some of these coincidences are about to make you question the very nature of time. We have to start with the undisputed heavyweight champion of predictions. Long before Tim Cook ever stepped onto a stage to reveal the Apple Watch, a certain grade 4 student's future fiance was already rocking one in Springfield. In the 1995 episode Lisa's Wedding, we're transported to the futuristic year of 2010. While there are flying cars and robotic librarians, the most grounded piece of tech shown is a watch worn by Hugh, Lisa's fiance. He literally speaks into his wrist to give a command, and the watch responds. At the time, this was seen as a James Bond-esque fantasy. Fast forward to 2014, and the Apple Watch is announced, bringing voice-integrated wrist-based communication to the masses. It wasn't just a watch that talks, the episode even captured the slightly awkward social etiquette of talking to your arm in public. In the era of rotary phones and room-sized computers, Star Trek was already imagining a world of sleek handheld touchscreens. Back in the 1960s, Captain Kirk and the crew of the Enterprise didn't use clipboards and paper, they used pads, personal access display devices. These were flat, rectangular screens used for reading reports and signing off on data. If you looked at a pad side by side with an iPad, the resemblance is haunting. When Apple was actually developing the iPad, designers reportedly looked at sci-fi influences, but Star Trek got the ergonomics and the flat glass aesthetic right nearly 45 years before Steve Jobs took to the stage. It makes you wonder, did they predict the tablet, or did they simply give the engineers of the future a goal to aim for? Long before the name Edward Snowden became a household word, Fox Mulder was already warning us that someone was listening to every single one of our phone calls. Throughout the 90s, the X-Files leaned heavily into the idea of a shadow government that used advanced technology to monitor citizens without their knowledge. In the episode EBE, Mulder discusses a secret government project that tracks every electronic communication in the country. This sounded like pure tinfoil hat paranoia in 1994. However, in 2013, the PRISM program revelations proved that the NSA was indeed collecting massive amounts of metadata and communication records from major tech companies. Mulder wasn't just chasing aliens, he was calling out the future of domestic surveillance. Black Mirror is famous for making us terrified of our phones, but one episode moved from cautionary tale to current events with startling speed. In the episode Nosedive, society is governed by a social media app where people rate every interaction from 1 to 5 stars. Your score determines your ability to rent an apartment, buy a plane ticket, or even be invited to certain weddings. It felt like a nightmare vision of Instagram gone wrong, but just a few years later, the Chinese government began fully implementing its social credit system, which uses surveillance and data to rank citizens' trustworthiness. Low scores can lead to travel bans and restricted access to jobs. It's a literal nosedive occurring in real time, proving that sometimes the writers aren't predicting, they're just paying very close attention to where we're headed. This is arguably the most chilling entry on our list, involving a show that lasted only 13 episodes but left a permanent mark on history. In March 2001, 6 months before the world changed, the pilot episode of The Lone Gunman aired. The plot? A rogue government agency hijacks a commercial airliner by remote control and attempts to fly it into the World Trade Center in New York. Their goal was to blame it on terrorists to start a profitable war. The imagery of the plane flying towards the Twin Towers is visually identical to the footage that would shock the world on September 11th. The writer of the episode later called it absolutely terrifying that something he imagined as a far-fetched conspiracy plot became a reality so soon after. While movies like Contagion get all the credit for pandemic predictions, a specific K-drama from 2018 used language that was almost word for word a match for the 2020 news cycle. In the 10th episode of the Korean series My Secret Terrorist, characters discover a mutant coronavirus. What makes this prediction stand out isn't just the name, since coronavirus is a family of viruses, it's the details. In the show, a doctor warns that the virus was manipulated to attack the lungs directly, has an incubation period of 2 to 14 days. They even emphasize that there is no cure or vaccine available at the moment and show a government official teaching children the proper way to wash their hands to stop the spread. Watching this clip in 2020 was a surreal experience for millions, as it mirrored the exact health advice and viral characteristics that we were seeing in real time. Long before Zoom fatigue was a medical condition, George Jetson was already dreading a video call from his boss. The Jetsons predicted plenty of things that haven't happened yet, like flying cars and robot maids that actually work, but they nailed the future of communication. In multiple episodes, characters use a televiewer to make video calls. What's most interesting isn't just the screen, it's the behavior. In one scene, Jane Jetson puts on a face mask to hide the fact that she hasn't done her makeup yet before answering a call. If that isn't the most relatable working from home moment ever captured on film, I don't know what is. They predicted the tech, but more importantly, they predicted how humans would awkwardly adapt to it. Comedy often relies on taking a ridiculous idea to its logical extreme. But what happens when the ridiculous idea becomes a literal national policy? In the third season of Arrested Development, the Bluth family, a group of corrupt real estate developers, becomes involved in a scheme to build a wall on the US-Mexico border. George Bluth Sr. sees it as a massive money-making opportunity. The show even featured a plot line where the family used their influence to secure government contracts for the wall. A decade later, the concept of a big, beautiful wall became the centerpiece of Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. The show's writers weren't trying to be political prophets, they were just trying to think of the most Bluth-like scheme possible, and it turned out reality was on the same page. What happens when a comedian plays the president on TV so convincingly that the citizens of a country decide to make it a reality? In 2015, a Ukrainian sitcom called Servant of the People premiered, starring comedian Vladimir Zelensky. He played a humble high school history teacher who becomes the president of Ukraine after a viral video of him criticizing government corruption sweeps the nation. The show followed his journey as a political outsider trying to clean up the system. In a staggering case of life imitating art, Zelensky ran for the actual presidency in 2019 under a political party also named Servant of the People. He won in a landslide with 73% of the vote, moving from a fictional office to the real one in just 4 years. It is perhaps the only time in history that a TV character's origin story became the literal career path of a world leader. This is it, the mother of all predictions, the one that still makes people look at Matt Groening like he's a time traveler from the year 3000. In the episode Bart to the Future, aired in March 2000, we see Lisa Simpson as the first female president. As she sits in the Oval Office, she says to her advisors, "As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump." At the time, Donald Trump was just a real estate mogul and a reality star, but the idea of him in the White House was treated by the writers as the ultimate absurdist joke. Fast forward 16 years and that joke became the reality of the 2016 election. The show didn't just get the person right, they even featured a visual gag of Trump on an escalator that looked almost identical to his actual campaign launch years later. From the tech in our pockets to the leaders in the White House, it seems like television writers have a weird knack for seeing what's around the corner. Is it a case of life imitating art, or is it just that if you write enough stories, eventually some of them have to come true? Either way, it makes you wonder what today's shows are predicting about our lives in, let's say, 2040. What's your favorite TV prediction? Did we miss one that keeps you up at night? Make sure you let me know in the comments down below. For now, I've been your host, Johnny Rogers, and I'll see you on the next one.